Friends, I just pressed the let's go live button, I think, so let's make sure all the tubes are working all across the fruited plain of the internet before we go ahead and get started on this lovely Thirsty Thursday. Are the tubes working? Are we on Rumble? Are we on Twitter? I think we are alive and well. That is tremendous news. That means we can go ahead and get started. So let us do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we are talking about Big Fani from Georgia. I know, we've got a lot of Fani talk here this week, but we're not done yet. We're talking about impeaching her because we have this new state senator from Georgia, American hero. Shout out to our friend, Senator Colton Moore, who is wading into this battle, probably going to be indicted himself for daring to challenge the biggest Fani in Georgia. And so we've got a lot of a big battle to get to. It sounds like this is going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to start off by hearing what Newt Gingrich heard. Apparently, he got some inside scoop that Big Fani got a phone call from Washington and said, hey, you better get that indictment going or else. And then that's why she hurried it up on the Monday when she tried to cram 2 days worth of testimony into one day. She came out, had the midnight announcement. Newt says that's because that was all directed from Washington. We've got State Senator Colton Moore. He submitted this letter. He's calling for an emergency session. And so if you're a friend of ours from Georgia, well, go check out State Senator Colton Moore. He's got an official petition out there saying that if you support the investigation of the corrupt Fani, well, you can go and sign up for it, put your zip code in there, and show him you support him. You might be committing a felony, though, so just be careful about that. I mean, this woman is kind of a psycho, and she's going after everybody, so be careful. But shout out to State Senator Colton Moore. Fani is issuing a big warning, and she says, uh-oh, we're going to have to start locking things down here because of the dangers. Donald Trump has been urged to cancel his big presentation. We know that on Monday he was going to come out and deliver testimony, some sort of a presentation. He said that he had proof on this thing and he was going to deliver it to us all. And apparently his lawyers are telling him, hey, don't do that because they're going to charge you again, literally, right? This is the big head, the smack dab between the two sides of this battle, the justice system and free speech, criminal law, and the ability to speak when you're running a political campaign and call out a corrupt system as a part of a problem of the system. So he's been urged to cancel it. We've got an article about what Trump can do. Maybe he can file a malicious prosecution suit, and we'll see what that standard looks like. Very, very short law. And then we'll check in with Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones over from Georgia, who says, no, I don't regret anything I did. I was in a position in an executive branch. My constituents asked me to investigate a problem. That's exactly what I did. So he doesn't regret anything. We'll go through all of that. Then we have a segment that we have to talk about. Now, this is kind of going to be a depressing segment, all right, just to be forewarned about this. But we got to call attention to it because this is a real thing. And we got into a little of this more this morning during our members-only morning stream. But we have this massive financial attack that's happening, okay? Not only is Donald Trump getting attacked, and this is causing serious consequences for his donations, for his coffers. MSNBC came out and they put together like this really nice presentation. All right, these, Trump wackos, they have like spreadsheets and diagrams. Look at all these charts and graphs and numbers. This guy was like former Secretary Treasury or something like that, Treasury Department, somebody or other. They're like, all right, Mr. Accountant guy, you're going to come in here and tell us everything. So it's really detailed and the numbers don't look good for Trump. I mean, it's a big problem. And Giuliani's also just getting beaten up by defamation lawsuits. And the Democrats, not only are they trying to take money away and bog everybody down in court, but they are also just crushing in terms of establishing infrastructure that was very effective in 2020. They have like a decade of experience building this infrastructure. They started back with John Podesta in 2015. So they've been building for 10 years and the Republicans have nothing. This report came out. It says, meanwhile, no conservative equivalent for anything that is happening right now. So it's time to hit the panic button. The Republicans have been asleep on this for a long time. but they need to start building now. And so we'll talk about all of that. Then something interesting happened today. The FBI and the DOJ got themselves a big fat subpoena. And this comes over courtesy of our friend Jim Jordan at the House Judiciary Committee. He made this announcement. He says, Chairman Jordan subpoenas the FBI. Woo, woo. We love a nice, good subpoena, especially when it gets popped over in the FBI. And guess who else got one? The Department of Justice. So it's just an extra delicious day. Now, we got both of the cover letters that were sent over, one to Merrick Garland at the DOJ and the other one over to Christopher Wray at the FBI. We'll read through both of those. And then we'll just wait till the FBI just, wipes their butts with it and then flushes it down the toilet. Then, lastly but not leastly, we have news that fake Joe Biden used a fake pseudonym. So in addition to mostly being a fake president because they just move him from room to room, he also used a fake pseudonym. And that pseudonym is Robert L. Peter. 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 Where did we hear that before? Oh, yeah. From Hunter's text messages, where he calls him Pedo Peter in text messages with his mom. Oh, gosh. We'll go through that. Oversight Committee made this announcement. They sent a letter over to the National Archives saying, we want information about this fake name and this fake email and all this stuff that he was doing. And I can't wait for all the Democrats who said, there's no evidence of anything. What did he need a fake name for there? Democrats? Well, he just likes to role play sometimes or something. I don't know. Then we've got Nancy Mace, and she says, we're not stopping. She's on the Oversight Committee. She says, we're just warming up here, baby. As soon as these emails come out, as soon as these pseudonyms come out, we'll see Robert L. Peter was hanging out with Pierre Delecto, who was hanging out with that Wiener guy. All of them are just probably hanging out together. And so they're all just have this pseudonym party. Yeah, anyways, so we'll go through all of that. As you can see, my friends, we have a lot to get to today. And this morning, we had a great members-only stream. We had a lot of fun. We talked about, shared some updates on the interview set, which is behind us right now. It's looking better. I didn't like it yesterday at all. It's looking a lot better. But we also covered this story, the plot that the Democrats are concocting right now to win in 2024. And we went through that full report in detail. And so that video will be coming out. Shout out to our members. We love our members. And if you want to become a member, we'd love it if you joined us at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, which is where we do our member-only morning streams. We go through the daily dockets, check the schedule, see what Congress is up to, the president is up to. We checked in on other cases that we're following as a community, cases like George Allen Kelly. Spent some time on that this morning, and it's a lot of fun. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com, or you can join us by joining as a member on YouTube, and we would love for you to join us. Either way, no matter where you join us, you can get access to our private Telegram group, which is where the chat never ends. It goes on and on, my friends. We also have our brand new website, robertgovea.com. If you want to sign up and get access to the mind map, anything that we cover here, you can just go to robertgovea.com, click here for instant access, sign up for our daily newsletter, and get the 4 reports really, delivered to your inbox every morning. So you'll get all this stuff delivered. If you don't want to watch the full segment, you can read the summary of exactly what happened in the video and stay up to date with all the latest happenings at robertgovea.com. All right, and now, my friends, of course, before we get into this, we have to be properly nutrified and properly healthified and fortified, and we can do that with our friends at Field of Greens, because we all would like to lose some of those leftover pandemic pounds, wouldn't we? Yes. But how sick are you of all the ads for weight loss pills and fad diets? We've all been there. We've all done that, and we know they just don't work. But you know what does? Eating 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Easy. You do that, and the weight would probably just fall right off. But look, vegetables, I know, not a fan. And fruit, who's got time to prepare that every day? Bananas, they get kind of squishy and stuff. Instead, let's talk about Field of Greens. Now, Field of Greens is a science-backed formula, very specific fruits and vegetables that you're not going to find in any other product, and I challenge you to look. Proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you burn calories faster and lose weight the healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you're going to look and feel healthier fast, but the greater proof is going to come at your next checkup. When you walk into your doctor's office and they take one look at you and they say, whoa, mama, you're looking good. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. And so let's get you started. Head on over to fieldofgreens.com. Use code Robert when you check out so you can save 15% off on your very first order. using code Robert. And let us not forget, this is green energy, but it's the good kind. You're going to be bursting with green energy. This is how I feel right now every day. And the vegetables also want to be eaten. That's why they're here. That's why they exist. Look how happy they are. They're miserable if they're not in your belly. So help them fulfill their entire reason for existence with our friends at fieldofgreens.com. Use code Robert. All right, let's get to it, my friends. Impeach Big Fani is the new call coming out of Georgia from State Senator Colton Moore. He says, all right, enough of this already. We got the most ridiculous RICO racketeering prosecution anybody's ever seen. Big Fani is really going big this time. She's going into Michigan and Pennsylvania. She's talking about Arizona. We're all asking ourselves, who is this woman? What does she think she's doing? She's not a federal prosecutor. And other people are pointing out that this whole grand jury proceeding was about as botched as you could get. Not only did we have the documents that were released early, we had other problems. They had all of the grand jurors come squeezing in on a Monday. It was supposed to be Monday and Tuesday, and the whole thing went awry. We know that they published the charges before the charges should have been published, and it was just a catastrophe. They had cameras in the courtroom. Everybody was doing this big performative thing. And the question is there any basis for any of these charges, or all of these legitimate things that politicians do all the time? So State Senator Colton Moore is calling for an emergency session, and our friends in Georgia, he could use your sign up at his petition website. If you Google Colton Moore, you'll be able to find him. Now, I want to start with some other shenanigans about what was happening here, because this entire prosecution seems like it just jumped off with a lot of problems. And it happened very, very quickly. And the question was why? We know that we had witnesses scheduled to come and appear in front of the grand jury on Tuesday. But they didn't do that on Tuesday because they were dragged there on Monday and they were told, you're testifying now and this is going to be done tonight. Well, why? Why could that be? Well, if you rewind the clock a little bit, remember on Friday, U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland came out and appointed David Weiss as special counsel. And we all were sitting here scratching our heads going, what on earth? Special counsel? For what? You already told us that he could do all the things a special counsel could do. You didn't need special counsel. And then his plea deal has suddenly gone awry. And now, because an IRS whistleblower came out with statements, 2 of them confirmed by FBI special agents, now you're suddenly appointing him as special counsel? So the whole thing was just nonsense and everybody knew it. And so they needed a big distraction. They dropped that disgusting sack right on us on Friday, and Monday they needed a story change, and boy did they get one. Newt's got inside scoop from sources.
That I am told, this is hearsay, but I am told by a reliable source that Friday evening somebody from Washington called the district attorney in Atlanta and said, you have to indict on Monday. We have to cover up all of the mistakes we just made with Weiss. And she said, apparently, my jurors aren't coming back till Tuesday. And they said, you didn't hear me. You have to indict on Monday.
Get your Fanny on it.
She said, we're not going to get here before noon. They said, it doesn't matter. She said, this means it's going to be 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock at night. They said, it doesn't matter. We need the news media shifting.
Who made that phone call?
We don't know. And I'm telling you
Barack
up front,
Obama?
this is hearsay, but it's from a person who has remarkably good
I
sources.
totally believe it, though, because that would explain why they leaked and they messed up on the clerk document, why she was exhausted, and why they had the 11 p.m. press conference, Mr. Speaker.
Everything was messed up. They had to squeeze it in because the news cycle was very bad for their guy. And that would explain the accidental publication. They were like racing. She's like, go, 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 get it filed. Just get it in there. Whoa! It gets published. Somebody in the media catches it. Oh, crap. And the Pace and CNN, they were outside with their cameras the entire day. In the morning, it was like, well, it's like 1 or 2 witnesses. They're having a lemonade, reading a book. They might be called, very loungy. And then that afternoon, they're like, we're on witness 5 of 10. They're like, hey, what do you think of Trump? He's a criminal. Perfect answer. Next witness. What do you think of Trump? He's an insurrectionist. Nailed it. Next witness. And they got it all done. And so now this guy, Georgia State Senator, who is an American hero as far as I can tell. Now we're just getting to know him, but he is walking right into the lion's den. Big Fani's lion's den. And she, as we know, is prosecuting 18 other co-defendants. She's just going wild here, saying if you even thought about supporting Donald Trump, conspirator, racketeer, you're in trouble. You're going to get the death penalty. So this guy is saying, all right, enough, Big Fani. We've had enough of you. Says, as Georgia State Senator Colton Moore from District 53 from Georgia's Freedom Caucus, the vice chairman, says, I am officially calling for an emergency session to review the actions of Big Fani Willis. She says, America is under attack. I'm not going to sit back and watch as radical left prosecutors politically target political opponents. Hey, at least someone's doing it. Shout out to Colton Moore. We got one, everybody. Yay! All right, so Colton Moore sends this letter August 17th. Says, Dear Governor Kemp, we, the undersigned, being duly elected members of the Georgia House of Representatives and the Georgia Senate, and comprising 3/5 of each respective house, pursuant to Article 4, Section 2, Paragraph 7b, hereby certify to you, Governor, in writing, with a copy to the Secretary of State, that in our opinion, an emergency exists in the affairs of the state. Whew! Requiring a special session to be convened under that section for all purposes to include, without limitation, the review and response to the actions of Big Fani Willis. Sincerely, Colton Moore, American hero, copying Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, Georgia Senate District 53. Now you'll see, he says in follow-up, he says, we must strip all funding and, if appropriate, impeach Big Fani. I'm calling on patriots across America to join me in this fight. Join and donate here, my friends. And so this is the link. You can find Colton Moore over on the Twitters. Now we're going to drop the old link in the chats in case you want to join in on his cause. Feel free to do so. Now, I would imagine that this is mostly applicable to people in Georgia because he's a Georgia state senator, but he is asking for zip codes down here. And so, of course, you can complete that if it is something that you want to support. And certainly I will do the same. So this is what he said. He says, we must strip all funding and, if appropriate, impeach Big Fani. And you see here that she is now issuing warnings. So Big Fani says there are threats coming. It's going to be a big problem. Says, from Georgia authorities are stepping up security measures now as Fulton County grand jurors face threats after the indictment of Donald Trump. Here's what they put out from Atlanta. News release, threats against Fulton County grand jurors. Of course, I don't encourage or endorse any threats at all. But are they checking with the FBI? Like, is the FBI involved in this again? Who's got eyes on Ray Epps? Where's he at? Where are these threats coming from? All right. So from Atlanta, the Fulton County Sheriff's Office is aware that personal information of members of the grand jury is being shared on various platforms. As the lead agency, our investigators are working closely with law enforcement agencies to track down the origins of the threats. We take this matter very seriously and are coordinating with our law enforcement partners to respond quickly to any credible threat and to ensure the safety of those individuals who carried out their civic duty. If anyone becomes aware, call 911. All right. So you get the gist of it, right? Tensions are rising. Of course, we do not want anything bad to happen to anybody. We want calm, peace. We would love equitable justice here, not their equitable justice, but equal justice. And we'll see if we get it. But you can see tensions are rising. Now, Fani Willis is coming under scrutiny from state senators. They're calling an emergency session. Donald Trump is keeping the pressure on. He is scheduled Monday to have a presentation where he's going to be presenting information on election interference. And he says that he's got proof of this thing and he was about to deliver it to us. But ABC News, apparently they've got some stories, some rumors from some Trump attorneys saying that his legal advisors are urging him to cancel the press conference, saying, hey, Trump, not a good idea. And this is something we've been talking about here. We've got the justice system, which is going to pretend it's still legitimate in these prosecutions, even though in my opinion it is not. And they're going to say that in order to protect the sanctity of the judicial process, we can't have Trump making statements outside of court. We're all saying, well, he is running for office, and one of the biggest issues in this country has been the weaponization of government against political opponents. So if you limit him from commenting on one of the consequences of this corrupt problem in America, That's a big problem for free speech, for political campaigns, for his entire base across America. It's not good. So we have these two immovable forces. An immovable force meets a non-stoppable object, or whatever that phrase is. You get it. And we have the courts versus Trump. And so Trump says, okay, well, if you want to indict me, then I'm just going to have a press conference and I'm just going to explain my view of this. The problem is the last communications, the last tweets, the last posts, the last attempts to do this are all being charged as crimes. So are they going to charge him again? Trump promised a press conference to refute allegations that came out in the indictment, but now ABC says it's now very much in doubt. Multiple sources familiar with the matter tell ABC News. And I was looking forward to this. I think that Trump, if he is not allowed to criticize this institution, and we all have to default that this institution is just a legitimate thing, this country is so far gone. I don't know where it goes, because how can you, if you can't challenge the institution of the government itself, what good is democracy? That's what we do. So now he is going to be dissuaded from speaking about these very things. Sources tell ABC News that Trump's legal advisors have told him holding a press conference with dubious claims of fraud will only complicate your legal problems, and his attorneys are advising him to cancel it. Now, I got to be clear on this. From a defense attorney perspective, absolutely. It's like a nuts thing to do. They've already charged you with a crime. It's like, they're saying he committed a DUI. I'm not saying he did, but they say he committed a crime, and it'd be like him driving again, drunk again. It'd be that's the analogy that they'd be charge him again. He said it again. We charged him the first time for making up dubious claims. Hit him again. And I think that they would do it. So from a defense perspective, it's like, yeah, you can't do it. Now, on the counterpoint, his best defense is, in many cases, a strong offense. If not, that is his only defense, is to go wage this battle in the court of public opinion, show people that what their claims are illegitimate, because I don't have any belief that Trump is going to get a fair shake in court. Did the Proud Boys get a fair shake? No. Did the Oath Keepers? No. They're sending Stuart Rhodes to prison for 18 years, and they want a lot more than that. He wasn't even there. So if he is not going to get a fair shake in the court of law, he's got no choice but to comment about this stuff. But certainly if he does, it's going to cause a complication. Trump announced the planned press conference with a social media post shortly after he and 18 other co-defendants were indicted. He said he would present a large, complex, detailed, but irrefutable report on the fraud in Georgia. Georgia Republican governor said, no, we did a great job. And other people are agreeing. So who knows if that actually happens or not? We'll see. Trump is keeping everybody on edge as per usual. One other thought about a potential response that Trump could file would be about a civil lawsuit claiming malicious prosecution. You see that Georgia does have a statute for this. It's not broad, but it says here, Chapter 7, false arrest, false imprisonment, and malicious prosecution. A criminal prosecution which is carried on maliciously and without any probable cause, which causes damage to a person, shall give him a cause of action. Now, that's a pretty high standard, okay? Fani's going to be able to justify this. Is she being malicious? Of course, we know she's being political and partisan and, yes, malicious. I mean, these people run for office in order to maliciously prosecute their opponents. They've said it on the record. So we know it, but can she justify it? Can she make up some probable cause? Yeah. Grand jury did it for her. So it's going to be very curious if Trump files anything like this. Not so sure we'll see it. More likely than not, the federal removal is going to be a big component here. But they're also going after other people like this guy. Georgia Lieutenant Governor is now apparently going to be under his own special prosecutor in the state of Georgia. And they ask him about this. They say, hey, do you regret what you were doing in Georgia? Like, do you think Trump won? What's your position on this? And here's what he says.
Do you still believe that President Trump won in 2020 in the state of Georgia? But look, the questions that were being asked back then there were a lot of issues. We didn't have thousands of people coming to us complaining about something that happened during the election cycle, whether it was change of drop boxes or the absentee ballots or whatever, or the machines, whatever it was. The rank and file citizen that was complaining about issues and that's exactly as an elected state senator we were doing, was looking into a lot of the allegations that were out there. So, and at the end of the day, that's what you're supposed to do as an elected official. You're supposed to respond to your constituents. So I'm not going to apologize for responding to my constituents. Every election, there's always people trying to game the system. To what degree, you just don't know. And that was the questions we were asking back in 2020.
Well, they were good questions to ask because we know that in places like Michigan, there were people delivering 10,000 fake ballot registrations into Michigan clerk of the county. So there are good questions to be asked, but his point is I think deeper than this. He was the Georgia lieutenant governor currently. I think he was a state senator previously who listed himself as an alternate elector. So it's not just about Trump, okay? They're going after Kemp's lieutenant governor. They're going after everybody. They're trying to decapitate anybody who challenges their victory so that when they steal it again, they have a much smaller pool of people who are willing to step up and do something about it, lest they be charged with crimes, lest Big Fani decide to indict them. So they're trying to chill, first of all, any involvement pre-election, but any challenges post-election as well, lest you be prosecuted with felonies. This is why it is important that we have people like Senator Colton Moore stand up, call emergency sessions, and work towards investigating these political partisan prosecutors and impeach them, including Big Fani, if it so merits. All right. And so we see that is happening. Now, this is a segment. All right. Now, this is going on here. And this is going to be a little bit of a heavy segment. All right. But we got to call attention to this. So it's an important one. Donald Trump is under financial attack. They're trying to hit him from both sides, not only dragging him through criminal court, which is going to cause him to be under criminal prosecution, which is a lot of time and effort, but it's also a lot of money. And it's draining money that could be used in other more fruitful ways, like campaigning. MSNBC put together a very interesting presentation here. You see this guy's former Treasury person. He's got charts and graphs, and he's calculating how much money Trump is spending on all these cases and how much it is taking away from the campaign efforts. But it's not just draining Trump's funds. The Democrats are also exploiting the law to maximize their infrastructure. And I want to share a brief bit from this new report talking about how the conservatives are getting blown out of the water. The Democrats are making $100 million investments into voter registration campaigns. Meanwhile, people like Rudy are under civil litigation from everybody, including Georgia, Dominion, Smartmatic. So this legal warfare and this financial battle is heating up. It's all over the place. And the Republicans, as far as I can tell, are just asleep at the wheel. So this is a segment from Morning Joe. And I know how painful Joe Brzezinski is, but this is an interesting presentation, and I want to share it with you because I think it is important that we know what's happening.
3 past the hour. As former President Donald Trump's legal troubles grow, so do his legal bills. And it comes with consequences for his political campaign.
That's what
Let's
this is all about.
Let's bring in former Treasury
Obviously.
official and Morning Joe economic analyst Steve Ratner, who is at the wall with charts. And I take it, Steve, Donald Trump doesn't like to pay personally his own bills.
He doesn't like to pay personally his own bills, but he's been raising some money, and we'll talk about that in just a second.
All right, look.
But let's start by talking about the impact of Donald Trump's indictments on his fundraising, because it's kind of interesting. So if you look over here, these are Google searches, and you can see that after the Manhattan indictment, his searches on Google shot way up here to it's an index number of 100, pretty much as high as it can go. Then you can see a little bit of a bump during the Jean Carroll thing. Then the documents indictment, much less of a bump in his Google searches. And then January 6th, also much less of a bump. But interestingly, his fundraising has tracked this to a considerable degree. He raised almost $4 million in one day after the Manhattan
day.
indictments and a total
Yeah,
of
pretty good
$14 million over this period. But it did trail off. He only raised $6 million after the documents indictment. And we don't know yet about the other two, but at least the initial rush of donors to him over that faded.
Okay, so now I think their point is, okay, oh, Trump's losing enthusiasm. Like everybody cared about the first one, and that Trump's people don't care so much about the second one, and Trump's people don't care about the third one or the fourth one. It's just kind of all petering out. And that very well may be true, and I would actually expect that. That's kind of the same point we were making here. It's like, hey, dum-dums, if you just keep indicting him, they lose meaning. Like if you just keep giving somebody the same thing over and over again, at first you're excited about it. The second time, I've already got one of these. The third one, what do I need this for? The fourth one is like a problem. It's like, stop telling me about, it's all this stuff. Do people care anymore about the fourth indictment? Not really. I mean, you can see it in the numbers. But I think this is also something that is happening to independents. It's happening to non-plugged in voters. Like this is happening across the entire domain. Yes, it's probably the inverse of this for the Democrats. The Democrats are probably consistent across the board. Or, I think they've been mostly orgasmic over the Georgia case. We saw Hillary Clinton and like Rachel Maddow were like, yeah, I don't know what the heck was going on in that room. It's gross. But they were, having a moment over Georgia. And so their numbers would be spiking way up because they just get more and more excited as these things go on. But if Trump's people are in this way, or Google Trends are this way, right? This is everybody. This is not just right wingers. This is everybody. So that means that independents and, even Democrats and other people are also not as interested. So it's like the boy who keeps crying wolf. The first time everybody cared, but the fourth time, not so much.
Well, when you look at the impact on his total fundraising, he's raised $54 million during this period, the first half of this year. 20 million of it came in the wake of those two sets of indictments. So the indictments have been a big part on the revenue side, if you will, of his finances, of his campaign.
And certainly, Steve, a flurry of emails soliciting donations have come out this week from the campaign after the Georgia indictment. But that's the money he's raised, but he's also had to spend quite a bit. And your second chart there on the Southwest wall is about the legal fees and how they're draining the campaign's coffers.
This is
so that's kind of interesting. He has actually been paying not only his legal fees, but for a bunch of his team out of his campaign finances.
A lot of money.
And it would probably be interesting for a donor to Trump to know that 50 cents of every dollar he raised in the first half of this year went to pay legal fees.
50 cents of every dollar that he raised going to legal fees. That he could be hiring people, that could be get out the vote money, that could be campaign commercials, advertisements. It could be very, very useful. Instead, it's going to lawyers. Ugh. And the lawyers, are doing great work. I'm just teasing about the lawyers. They're doing great work, and they're worth every penny, no doubt. But that is money that the Democrats are taking off the field. And you know who's helping them take that money off the field? The federal government and the state governments. They're using free resources that they control, the government, that cost them nothing in terms of manpower or money to go after Donald Trump. And it's hurting him big time. These numbers are serious. Half of every dollar.
So if you give money to Donald Trump, half of it, roughly, at least for the last 6 months, has been his legal defense fund, and the other half actually his campaign. So you should know what you're giving to. But you can see that over time, his legal bills have been mounting quarter by quarter, 6 to 8 to 12 to 15 million. His fundraising did drop a bit. It was higher in the second quarter of this year. We'll see how that all falls out. But then it's had a pretty big impact on his cash on hand. He went from $114 million of cash at the beginning of last year, most of this in one of his PACs, all the way down to $63 million at the moment. But this PAC of his main PAC, has literally gone down to $5 million of cash. So his cash coffers have come down a good bit as he's paid his legal bills and also, of course, some money for his campaign.
So these donors must really be supportive of Donald Trump being so willing to pay his legal bills. Claire McCaskill, you have the next.
Yeah, that's part of the campaign, Mika, because that's what your team is doing. You guys are cheaters, and you use the government to go after your political opponents. So, yeah, I would imagine the people who are making the donos are perfectly okay with that.
Next question.
Yeah, Steve, did you have a chance to look at the two categories of fundraising? I like to call it, one category is checks with commas in them, and the other category is $20 online. How big has the exodus been from Trump, from people who write big checks, and how dependent is he on the low donors, the $5, the $10, the people who give him constantly small amounts?
Unfortunately, Claire, I don't have those numbers yet, but I have some other numbers that are also interesting relative to historic fundraising. So if you go back to his 2019 campaign, Trump raised in just the second quarter when he announced in 2019 over $100 million, combination of small donors, big donors, and various committees. This time around, he's raised just a bit over $40 million, even if you include the RNC in his money. So his fundraising, at least so far in this cycle, is a...
Now, it's curious why they don't have Biden 2020 on here. Why don't they have Biden 2020 on here? Because those numbers were insane. They dumped so much money into Biden 2020, it would make your head spin. It was like 3 or 4 times the amount Trump did. You look up the charts, it's just nuts. They don't even, it's a totally different class. So they left that one off here because I think Biden 2020 would have probably been off the chart.
Good bit less than it was last time. Now, that said, of course, his fundraising relative to the other Republicans is still much stronger. 35 million raised in the second quarter versus 20 for DeSantis and much less for Haley Scott and so forth. And so the interesting question that we're going to face is what the impact of these latest set of indictments are going to be on his fundraising. As we all know, his polling numbers have stayed quite strong. These are polling averages. He did get that bump after the New York indictment.
Mika.
But since then, he's actually flatlined, even
Mika,
as DeSantis has lost 10 percentage points of his popularity, which has gone to some of the bottom tier candidates. So it'll be an interesting question to see, and your interesting polls from a few minutes ago, it'll be interesting to see whether his popularity or his lack of popularity affects his fundraising as he goes forward. But clearly, his fundraising and his campaign finances are not going as well as they did last time, and in part because he's spending so much of his donors' money that they probably think is going to his campaign on his legal bills.
Hey, you know what? Donors don't care. They want Trump to win. They want him to win. If he's got to fight back against you corrupt cheaters who are using the DOJ and the FBI as your own little pawns in your political game, then they'll do it. That's fine. Doesn't matter. Whatever it takes to get it done. And you can see here, man, they are just gleeful. Look at Mika's face. She really liked that presentation. She loves these bar charts. She loves Donald Trump going down. She thinks that this is the end game for them and that these legal battles are actually working, right? They're bleeding him dry. They're taking money off the table that could go elsewhere.
Yeah, I was being sarcastic when I said his donors are so generous that they'd pay his legal bills. Steve Ratner, thank you very much. And coming up in...
All right, so that's Mika. Now, that's one analysis. You can take those numbers for what they're worth. I think that the point remains is that this is a big part of their campaign. They want to tie Trump up, slow him down with legal fees and legal battles. And they're waging war not just against Trump, but everybody else. This is a shorter segment from CNN. And they're noticing that we've got Mark Meadows, we've got Rudy Giuliani, Jenna Ellis has a give, send, go now. We've got Sidney Powell. There's all sorts of people who are coming under the same type of pressure with their legal fees and alternate electors. And people are going to start flipping because they just buckle under the pressure. Being prosecuted with criminal charges and felony charges by psychopathic prosecutors who have an axe to grind and a bloodlust. Yeah, people are going to start to shake loose. And now we've got a story about Rudy Giuliani and Trump not having come to terms on legal fees.
In addition to being indicted in Fulton County, Georgia, Rudy Giuliani is staring down hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal bills and sanctions. And his lawyer claimed today that Giuliani will not be getting any help paying those bills, not even from his client, Giuliani's client, Donald Trump. CNN's Caitlin Palance is here with more. Caitlin, how did the former New York City mayor find himself in such a financial hole?
Well, it was working for Donald Trump after the 2020 election. Whenever you look at all of the legal issues that Rudy Giuliani is facing, and he is facing some personal lawsuits, some difficulties with his business, unpaid phone bills from 2020, the vast majority of what he has to face and the costliest things that he has to do.
Okay, I want to pause on this. This is something that is unique to Rudy Giuliani. Now, you could say maybe he was more aggressive with Smartmatic and Dominion, and he had, he held presentations and hearings and things like that. But the Democrats have done the same things. There are clips with Kamala saying the voting machines are problematic. We've heard Democrats scream and shout about rigged elections in 2018. After 2016, they said that this was all illegitimate and that the election was stolen. Hillary said the election was stolen from her, right? But they're not getting sued from Smartmatic. They're not getting indicted in Georgia. They're not getting defamation lawsuits from Dominion or Georgia election workers, right? The Democrats, my friends, my point in sharing this segment with you is that they are like little snipers out there. They've got lawyers and they're just identifying where players have legal exposure. They're just literally just, I would imagine, if I were doing it, I would have spreadsheets of all of the people and you would analyze what they've done and you would craft claims and you would funnel those claims to people who could execute them. It's just like people troll, for patent lawsuits and stuff like this. It's just trolling for legal lawfare. And this is what they're doing. So he's got disbarment proceedings, personal lawsuits, right? The whole thing's a mess. And it's going to cause problems when this hits everybody. And the Republicans aren't doing anything to combat these tactics, these lawfare tactics, these commandeering of government entities to prosecute political opponents. And I wanted to share this brief document with you. Now, we read through this full thing on our members only morning streams. And so we'll have a video on this coming out. But this comes from this report entitled, How Charities Secretly Help Win Elections, exposing a $120 million scheme to help Democrats win. Now, we're going to fast forward all the way to the takeaway. And if you want to catch the rest of this, we have a full video on it coming out. But a couple takeaways. After all of this work, did everything come to fruition? Well, yeah. On its website, one of these so-called charities, it's called VRP, they say they registered 5.1 million people over the last several years. They anticipate 37% of those 5.1 million will vote. Using those percentages gives us a range of 1.7 to 3.4 million actual 2020 votes produced by this campaign, right? So this is a Democratic operation that is just going and registering people. Now, there's a question of the Democratic-Republican split on these. They're going out. They think that 76% are people of color, 56% women, 47% under a certain age, and exit polls and so on. They say combining these numbers, they believe, they've done an analysis in this report, that this so-called charitable organization that's been concocted by the Democrats has delivered Joe Biden between 1 million and 2.7 million votes in the last election, somewhere between 1.3% and 3.3% of all the votes. But they were never interested in everybody, right? This is not a generic type of organization that just goes and gets everybody regardless of their disposition. We know that the VRP produced more Democratic votes than the party's margin of victory. And the margin in Arizona and Georgia, would be over 10 times the presidential victory margin. So they say, now how can this stuff be stopped? It can't. Until 501c3 groups like charities and private organizations are barred from funding, there is going to be a loophole that is going to continue to be skirted. We have billionaire donors making donos. This is the Zuckerbucks. This is what all this led to. So they say in conclusion, not only does the left enjoy far more dark money than the right does, there's just a whole infrastructure that the left has built. They say, meanwhile, there is no conservative equivalent to any of this money. There says at most there was a handful of scattered conservative charities that spend a fraction of their budget on registration and get out the votes. They're facing a Democratic behemoth. There's a sophisticated, centrally controlled, 9-figure funded, high-tech operation VRP network that is out there and operating. The largest conservative foundations fund nothing like that. They call it a racket, and they say if you try to fight it, they're going to call it vote suppression. So we've got 9 figures of dollars and years and decades of money being pumped into this stuff. And they're gearing up for 2024. In 2024, they've got a training logistics consultant that describes new training for 2024. Guess where? Florida, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Texas, and Wisconsin. They're already fully in motion. And this organization started back with John Podesta in 2015 with Hillary. They've got a decade of time ahead of the Republicans. They've got lawfare underway in civil courts. They've got lawfare through criminal prosecutions in 4 jurisdictions now. We've got the bleeding of campaign funds, and the Republicans are doing Lord knows what, talking about how Trump should move on and stuff like that. So this is, I think, a bit about time for the Republicans to start really, thinking about this before this infrastructure continues to move past them. But we'll see if they care about it or if they try to help. Otherwise, my friends, we've got some more work to do. We've got to continue to spread our message to counteract all of these efforts. We have to share harder and more aggressively. We have to create more content with a stronger message, more clarity. And of course, we'll continue to do that. Thank you for subscribing as we do. All right. Now, we do have some good news. We're not going to leave it there. We have some good action for the next 2 segments because we can't leave on a bad note. And so this is some good, juicy stuff. The FBI and the DOJ get a big fat subpoena, courtesy of our friend Jim Jordan in the House Judiciary Committee. We're going to read through both the letters to Merrick, Garland, and FBI Director Christopher Wray. But this case involves the big tech censorship saga. We know that the FBI was putting pressure on Twitter and Facebook and everybody to censor my election misinformation and my COVID misinformation, lest danger happens across our society, or whatever nonsense they were making up as justification to censor us so that their political candidate could win. But Jim Jordan, over from the House Judiciary, made this announcement. He said, breaking, Chairman Jim Jordan subpoenas the FBI. Oh, love that. Let's just say that again. Let's pause for a minute here one more time. Chairman Jim Jordan subpoenas the FBI. Oh, yeah, that feels good. And when you add in the DOJ too, it's like just a cherry on top. His announcement says, today, House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan issued subpoenas to the FBI Director Christopher Wray and Attorney General Merrick Garland over at the DOJ, related to the committee's ongoing censorship investigation. And this is such a critical issue because if they censor us in 2024, they might as well eliminate our political conversation that will enable our candidate to win, right? I mean, it's shutting up our political speech, which is what they did in 2020. They're going to try to do it again. Jordan's investigating. Says specifically, the committee is seeking communications between the FBI, the DOJ, private companies like the socials, and third-party groups related to content moderation and suppression of disfavored speech. On April 18th, Jordan says, the committee wrote to the FBI and the DOJ requesting voluntary cooperation with oversight. And to date, their compliance has been woefully inadequate, producing only a single document, a publicly available transcript of a civil deposition of FBI Special Agent in Charge Elvis Chan. Elvis Chan was the delete this, delete that guy. Through its investigation, the committee, Jim Jordan, has uncovered evidence that contradicts several statements in Agent Chan's deposition. In other words, he lied? Particularly as they relate to his communications with social media platforms. So, for the committee to inform potential legislation, like the possible enactment of a new statutory limit on the executive branch's authority to work with social media companies, and other companies to restrict the circulation and deplatform users, the committee must first understand the nature of this collusion and this coercion between the feds and the tech companies. So we have Congress saying, we're going to stop this from happening, right? We have free speech in this country. We shouldn't have the executive branch creeping on big tech companies to tell them to censor Americans. And if we're going to pass legislation, we got to know what we're talking about here, so we better investigate. So Jim Jordan sent some letters over, and here's what they say. April 17th. From the Committee on the Judiciary, United States House of Representatives, Jim Jordan, Chairman from Ohio, the Judiciary Committee, August 17th, to the Honorable Christopher Wray, Director of the FBI. Jordan says, hey, dear Director Wray. All right, buddy. He says, our committee, the Judiciary Committee, is conducting oversight on how the executive branch coerced and colluded with tech companies to censor speech. We've got to develop legislation like enactment of your executive branch's ability to deplatform users and censor content. And to this end, we've asked the FBI and others for cooperation. But your response there, Wray, without compulsory process has to date been woefully inadequate. You're kidding. Is anybody surprised by this? The committee's investigation, along with other public reporting and public discovery in an ongoing federal case that we've talked about here called Missouri versus Biden, have exposed how the federal government has pressured and colluded with big tech companies and other intermediaries to censor viewpoints on social media, thereby undermining the First Amendment. We know the First Amendment prohibits the government from imposing viewpoint-based censorship restrictions, and the state action doctrine stands for the proposition that government officials may not circumvent the Constitution by using private actors, whether through coercion, encouragement, entwinement, joint participation, to accomplish what the government cannot control directly. So the question here is, what constitutes state action? Is the state doing it, or is a private party doing it? Because if it's a private party, well, you don't have a real constitutional claim against that private party unless certain things, right? But if you're going to say that the government is encroaching on our First Amendment, which is what the First Amendment protects against, we got to ask ourselves, was there actual state action? It's a threshold issue. If it wasn't the state censoring you, like if it's your employer, well, you might not have a free speech claim against your employer. But it's the government. So they said there was no state action because we outsourced this to Facebook, and Facebook did the censoring, not us. Jordan says, not true. Numerous documents have been made publicly available that reflect the weaponization of the federal government's power to censor speech online directly, meaning you got guys like Rob Flaherty from the White House just sending letters over to the Facebook people saying, delete this, delete that, and screaming at them, dropping, swear words and stuff. Congress says it's necessary for Congress to gauge to the extent to which FBI agents coerced, pressured, worked with, or relied upon social media companies and others to censor our speech. The scope of our investigation includes the extent of the FBI's involvement. So Jordan says, look, FBI, on April 18th, the committee wrote to you seeking your voluntary cooperation with oversight. We know Christopher Wray doesn't like those letters. He gets very irritated, hops on airplanes, goes on vacation. Among other things, we asked for communications between FBI employees, private companies, internal communications, communications between the FBI and other third parties, and things discussing content moderation. To date, the FBI, you people, has produced only a single document, a publicly available transcript of a civil deposition of Elvis Chan. Through its investigation, though, our committee uncovered evidence that contradicts several statements in Agent Chan's deposition. Oh, he lied to Congress? An FBI agent lied? Particularly as they relate to his communications with social media. So they're telling the FBI, your production is woefully inadequate here. You omit voluminous responsive materials, including communications between FBI and tech companies, internal communications, and other executive branches. Indeed, on July 4th, we know that in the case of Missouri versus Biden, that enjoined the FBI from communicating with tech companies. The court found that, among other things, that FBI Agent Chan, Agent Laura Demlow jointly participated, this is the judge speaking, said the FBI agents jointly participated with social media companies, that they became pervasively intertwined in the private company's workings, and it blurred the line between private and public action. Therefore, the states are likely to succeed, saying that the government, federal government, are responsible for the censorship on the social media platforms. In other words, Jim Jordan says, hey, FBI, a federal judge has found that the FBI's communications with social media platforms very likely violated Americans' First Amendment rights. And you did it using deception. Yet you have produced nothing of substance in response to our request, which hinders the committee's ability to fulfill its oversight obligations. The committee has engaged with the FBI in identifying the high priority documents. We sent letters to you. We had phone calls with your staff. And so pursuant to the House of Representatives rules, in addition to HR 12, which authorizes us to investigate these things, we're doing it. And so accordingly, Jim Jordan says to FBI Director Christopher Wray, you know, Chris, given the FBI's inadequate voluntary compliance, even after our committee identified the highest priority documents and information, please find attached a subpoena for the committee's documents and information. Sincerely, your friend Jim Jordan, Chairman, House Judiciary Committee. Give us the documents. So now we'll see what happens here. We already know that the FBI got subpoenaed once before, and they sort of complied a little bit. And they really drug their feet on this thing. Turned into a big mess. It was over the FD 1023 document. James Comer eventually got some of it. And then we ultimately saw the full document after Chuck Grassley released it. So FBI director gets a letter and gets a big fat subpoena, but he's not alone. We also have Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of the United States, the guy who lied to us about David Weiss multiple times. Very similar letter. Says, hey, Mayor, you know, you were involved in this censorship too. And Missouri says that you guys are also liars. Numerous documents that have been made publicly available show that you are censoring speech. We also asked you, Mayor, for information on April 18th, and you didn't give us anything. To date, the DOJ only produced a single document, the same transcript of Elvis Chan. So they say, sorry, Mayor, that's not going to cut it here for us. No, not going to work for us. Your production is woefully inadequate. Obviously, you know that. Another judge said that your people also, the same judge said that your people censored, and the federal judge found that you enabled the Department of Justice also violated First Amendment rights. And so also to you, Mayor, please find attached a subpoena from your friend Jim Jordan, chairman of the House Judiciary Committee in Congress. All right, my friends. Well, the DOJ and the FBI get some nice subpoenas from our friend Jim Jordan. We'll see what they do about him, whether they respond. But we know that they played a little bit of ball last time. Will that trend continue, or will Jim Jordan have to take this up a notch? Either way, we'll continue to cover, my friends. Thank you for subscribing, as we do. All right, now, one final segment on this, and this one is just outstanding. Our fake president used a fake name, a pseudonym, and he is now being called out on it by none other than James Comer, House of Representatives, on the Oversight Committee. We're learning more about this. He says, breaking, James Comer is requesting all unredacted documents and communications from the U.S. National Archives, the same National Archives that got very upset that Donald Trump had some overdue library books. They turned that over to the Biden White House. They referred it to the FBI, and they raided his house. Now James Comer is saying, hey, National Archives, since you archive everything, we need the following bits of data. One, we know that then Vice President Joe Biden used a pseudonym. Well, that's curious. What do you need a pseudonym for if you're not involved in any nefarious business? Hunter Biden, Eric Sherwin, and Devin Archer is copied, and all drafts of then Vice President's speech delivered to the Ukrainian Rada in December 2015. They say, hey, archives, if there's any overlap between Joe Biden's official duties and his son's activities in Ukraine, Americans deserve to know. And so this is the letter saying that old Joe Biden used an alias, Robert L. Peter. And that's an interesting name because we know the name Peter showed up in other places on the old Hunter Biden laptop, which we'll talk about. But first, let's see what the letter says from James Comer. It is being sent over to the National Archives. You see, it comes out from James Comer from Kentucky, chairman on the Oversight and Accountability Committee, United States House of Representatives. Sent over to Colleen Shogan, National Archivist. They say, all right, dear Dr. Shogan, Comer says, our committee is investigating Joe Biden and his meetings and communications with certain family members and business associates during the time that he was VP. NARA, the National Archives, has published Joe Biden's vice presidential record collection, which contains information that's relevant to our committee's work. Many of these records have been redacted pursuant to the Presidential Records Act and the FOIAs, but to further our investigation, we need to review these things in their original format. All right, so we're going to need you to lift those redactions off. The committee seeks unrestricted special access to the Presidential Records Act to case number 2020-3022-F. And this one's entitled Email Messages to or from Vice President Biden and Hunter Biden related to Burisma and Ukraine, which has been published on NARA's website. The National Archives have it published. This is the Biden records. Email messages to and or from Vice President Joe Biden and Hunter Biden related to Burisma and Ukraine. Interesting. So these records, which are publicly available, have been redacted for public release. For example, an email bearing the subject, the Friday schedule card, is withheld. We can't see anything under parts P6 and B6. These are restrictions saying it's personal information. That's why it's been redacted. Attached to this email and made available also on the NARA website is a document that indicates that at 9 a.m. on May 26, VP Biden took a call with the president of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko. It's concerning to oversight, however, that this document was sent. This document was sent to Robert L. Peters. That's interesting. Let me see if Vice President took a call, but the document was sent to Robert L. Peters. Oh, yeah. A pseudonym the committee has identified as Vice President Biden. Additionally, the committee questions why then Vice President's son, Hunter, and only Hunter, was copied on this email to the then Vice President. And so we've got questions about this, obviously. To further our investigation, the committee needs to review these documents. Please send them over no later than August 31st, including 1, complete unredacted versions of all documents from the case, any documents or communications in which a pseudonym for Vice President Joe Biden was included, either as a sender, recipient, copied, or was included in the contents of documentation or communication, including but not limited to other names. Here are other pseudonyms for Joe Biden: Robert Peters, Robin Ware, and JRB Ware. Any documents under pseudonym Joe. Gosh, maybe that's why Andrea Mitchell couldn't find any of those records somewhere, you know. Not going to see a direct deposit for Joe Biden because it's in the bank account for Robert Peters. Any document or communication in which Hunter, Eric Sherwin, Devin Archer was included as a sender, recipient, copied, or included in the contents of the documents. All drafts of VP Biden's speech that was delivered December 9th. And they say that special access to presidential records may be granted to Congress if it's within the jurisdiction of their committee. And that vice presidential records are governed the same way. They tell the National Archives that our committee needs these records. We craft legislative solutions that might impact immediate family members of vice presidents. We're concerned that foreign nationals have access to political figures and might be exploiting them, including members of the Biden family. And so this is our legislative purpose. We would direct you, if you need to know why this is important, we would direct you to 3 bank records memoranda that we've already released. They say also, NARA, we've got broad authority. We're Congress. We can investigate whatever we want. So tell us when you're going to send these letters over to us. Give us a call if you have any questions. Sincerely, your friend, James Comer, Chairman, Committee on Oversight and accountability. And so, wow, that's pretty amazing. We now have a pseudonym vice president who is the actual president who used the name Robert L. Peters. And what is that all about? And why is Hunter involved in those emails? Now, something that people have noticed is that in the Hunter Biden laptop, there was a curious email, including a picture of this from Johnny MAGA on Twitter. Says James Comer just revealed that Joe Biden used a pseudonym, Robert Peters. This literally confirms that Pedo Peter, the contact in Hunter's iCloud account, was Joe. And you can fill in the gaps here, but this apparently is from the laptop. Mom and Pedo Peter, mom. And this text message says, you getting a ride with Preston? You getting a ride with Preston? Nana, Pop, Pick and I both up at Mac's Garden. You taking Nana to see Uncle and Uncle Jim's today? Birthday, drove, ask Pop. Mom and Pedo Peter. Down here we have Jill Biden and Pedo Peter. And Aunt Ashley and Pedo Peter. Who is this Peter fellow? And why is Joe Biden calling himself Peter? And why is Hunter Biden calling him Peter? I don't know. Very curious moniker to appropriate for oneself. Now, Nancy Mace got asked about this. She was here opining about the economics before she got asked about Americans and their opinions on Joe Biden.
Especially Republicans who are not going to spend too much. I'm a true believer, and you'll see me act that way this fall when we get to it.
Well, I'll tell you, impeachment is another issue, but I want you to take a look at this Fox News poll. It looks like Democrats, Republicans, and independents are all increasingly believe that Hunter Biden did something illegal compared to the numbers from February. So you've got now 19% of the Democrats think that Hunter did something illegal compared to 9% in February. Republicans, 80% compared to 69%. And independents, 50% of independents think that Hunter Biden did something illegal compared to 30%. So given that that's the movement of the American people, I mean, is there anything that the Republicans are going to do with respect to impeachment?
Nah, probably not.
Well, we have to continue showing the facts. The mainstream media and the left want you to think that this kind of behavior is normal. There's nothing normal about selling your country out for mind-boggling amounts of money. And the more the American people learn, the less that they trust. They know that the Republicans are telling the truth. And I'm not going to stop until 100% of Americans know the truth and know what happened with the Biden family and the amount and level of corruption. This will be one of the most corrupt presidencies in United States history when we're done with it. And we shouldn't stop until every single American knows what happened.
All right. So the oversight committee that you're on is the tip of the spear. What's next?
Well, we also have the Judiciary Committee and the Ways and Means Committee. I think it's time this fall when we get back in session to start subpoenaing people. We should know every single witness. We should know every single bank record and bank account. The Americans, they don't trust Congress, but I want them to trust the evidence that comes forward. Every bit of evidence that we find on every one of these committees ought to be released to the American people. Let them judge for themselves how bad it truly is.
Initially we heard that there were about 9 or 10 banks. When are you getting the next group of bank records?
I hope we'll get it in the next couple of weeks when we're back in session in September. It can't happen soon enough, but I have to tell you, I mean, we're dealing with foreign banks, foreign countries. Those things take time. They cost money.
Yeah, I'm sure.
If I could show the SARS reports that we've seen, we can't because they're confidential and it would be illegal for me to do that. But the amount of money laundering we're talking about, it is mind-blowing, the amounts of money that was exchanging hands.
The SARS reports, you're talking about those reports that are identified by the suspicious bank by the Department of the Treasury. There were about 175, as I recall, regarding Hunter Biden.
Yes.
And nothing happened.
175?
That's right.
All right. Congresswoman Nancy Mace, good luck to you. Americans want to see something happen.
Take
care.
Hey, Sean Hannity.
Yeah, we do. We want to see exactly some action happen. So Nancy Mace says that they're going to, they're taking a break. All right. Congress gets tired, so they have to take a whole month off. So they'll be back in September. And then they're going to start digging into this. But my goodness, we got Robert L. Peter. We've got a bunch of other names. and foreign bank accounts. I think, man, this shell is probably just getting started to be cracked, which might be why they're creating some infrastructure to show Biden the door at some point. We'll see. Of course, we'll continue to cover our fake president, fake Joe Biden, fake Robert L. Peter, whatever his stupid pseudonyms are. Doesn't matter. He's incompetent regardless of what he calls himself. All right. That, my friends, is it for us on the day. We covered some good ground. Biden's fake name and fake presidency. We've got the Judiciary Committee sending subpoenas over to the FBI and the DOJ. Of course, we love that. Trump is under financial attack, and like serious financial attack. And hopefully the Republicans wake up. Where are the Republican billionaires? Where? I don't know. And of course, we know that Big Fani Willis coming under some additional scrutiny from her garbage hack prosecution. Shout out to Senator Colton Moore for bringing the impeachment inquiry. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. And so now let's jump over to you and see what you have to say about all of this. We are going to hit Twitter today, so Twitter friends, stick around. We'll make sure we hit you. Apologies for missing you the last couple days. But we'll say what's up to Twitter. We'll also check in with our friends at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Before we get out of here, don't forget to sign up for the daily newsletter. So if you miss anything at robertgovea.com, you can sign up for the daily newsletter. Get all of these reports delivered to your inbox. If anything happens, we'll stay connected and you can stay plugged in to all of the latest affairs. robertgovea.com. We appreciate you signing up and testing out our new website. We've got hats coming. Oh, man, I can't wait to share locals. We got these new hats. They sent me new pictures. They're looking perfect. All right. So let's see what you have to say about all of this. And we'll jump in to our friends on the tubes. We've got Mark Jenkins became a supporter. Welcome aboard, Mark Jenkins, as a member on YouTube. So YouTube members, don't forget to grab the Telegram link, which is if you navigate over to the community tab section, that's where you will be able to see it. So join us over there. And Mark, you upgraded to a shout out member, man. Thanks for upgrading your membership, which is amazing. And hey, Patricia Rizzo MC. All right, so super cool. We got Patricia became a supporter. We got Mark became a supporter. And Dolphin Fan is the man, brought in 5 new membos as supporters as well. Thank you, Dolphin. We got Cyprian C, Sassy T, Dorothy D. Man, it's like a rhyme. It's like a Dr. Seuss set of rhymes. Amazing. Cyprian C, Sassy T, Dorothy D, Pope Rackets Touched Me. It's like poetry. And Harlan Remy. This is like poetry. It's beautiful. Pope Rackets Touched Me is also in the house. Big welcomes to Cyprian, Sassy, Dorothy, Pope, and Harlan. Super grateful to have you. Dolphin, thanks for bringing them in. Make sure you grab the private Telegram link on the community tab section for our after party. We got Quantum Thug Life in the house, who's thugging it up on multi dimensions, says biggest Fani ever, impeachment in Georgia. Well, we hopefully it gets there. Yeah, we're gonna see that. We're going to see where it goes. We're at inquiry stage, but you're right. No Fani will ever be bigger than this Fani. And I have an open invitation to anybody out there who can point to a bigger Fani than Fani Willis in Georgia. She is the biggest Fani there. She is literally the district attorney. I mean, for the whole county. There is no bigger Fani than Fani Willis. We got Voice of the People on YouTube says, after all we have seen with the Proud Boys trial, J6 narrative breaking, and now this with Trump, I demand treason charges for these people. Nothing less. Well, you know, Voice, who are you demanding it from? From me? I wish I had the power to do something about it, but I don't. But I do demand some action too. Maybe you should tell Kevin McCarthy, see what he does. All right, Voice, just teasing you. You know I love you. All right, we got Law Force became a supporter. Law Force in the house. Grateful to have you. Thanks for joining aboard, and we'll see you in the after party. We had Catherine Rex says the penny is dropping. Finally. Yeah, it's slow but surely. And all these pseudonyms and stuff, that was a pretty juicy drop. The pseudonyms, what do you need that for, you know? We got Catherine Rex says, hi, Rob, you are la bomb. Thank you, Catherine Rex. Thanks for being a member and for joining in on the fun. We got Quantum Thug Life says, doxing themselves. Dangerous to vote in person. It's dangerous to do a lot of things in person. You can't even go pick up a prescription from Walgreens in some places around this country. Thanks, Quantum. We had another one from the Chugi Show. Says, could he have filed to impeach Fani long before this? Well, Trump was trying some other things. Actually, Trump tried a lot in this effort to stop this from going anywhere. They tried to conflict off Fani. They tried to do a bunch of stuff before this ever. Basically, they tried to invalidate the special grand jury, but they worked it all the way up. The court said, nope, it's valid, no real conflicts. And so they were allowed to move this forward. So it's like, theoretically, she didn't do anything impeachable until this dropped. Now we all see it. We're like, wow, all right, this is ridiculous. That is like the trigger. Up until that point, the judge was basically saying she's a prosecutor. She's allowed to investigate whatever she wants. Thank you, Chugi. We got this one from Dim Sim. Says, what can Trump do to ensure the 2024 election is fair and just? I think the Dems will come after him harder this time with voting irregularities. Well, I think that the Republicans, they should be using and playing by the same tactics the Democrats are doing. All right. Massive voter registration efforts. Everybody gets to vote, following the rules. Everything's lawful and perfectly above board. But, where's all the multi-billionaires who are just fun, like Soros and Buffett? If you read the full article, they're donating millions. They have hundreds of millions of dollars that are building these infrastructures. We've got lawfare, guys like Democracy Docket, Mark Elias, right? They have been building infrastructure for years, and the Republicans don't have that. So that's where I would start. You fight fire with fire, at least come up with the same tactics. I also think that, they need to, we got to get control of these mediums of exchange and put pressure on these big tech companies to not censor us and suppress us this next go round, because I think that was a big part of this. It's going to be hard to make it fair and just. I have a lot of doubts about it, but I think the big thing is we have to keep our energy high. We have to be, the light has to shine brighter than the darkness. I know it's cliche to say that, but it's true. Like, we've got to be louder and more attractive than the other side. We have to attract people to the cause in a way that is overwhelming to the other side so that they can't cheat. I think that's really the answer. I think they are going to cheat. They're going to use the same tactics they did last time. Justin is in the house. Thanks, Justin, for joining as a member, as a shout-out member over on YouTube. Grateful to have you. And stick around for the after party. Jameson says, we need to ask the House to call all prosecutors to D.C. to testify and justify why they should not be civilly or criminally liable. This is BS. Congress could, I'm sure Congress could do something, like they're going to be calling in David Weiss. Even though he's appointed special counsel, they could call in Fani. They could call in, right? Their interference with a federal election. Maybe they will. See, we got Rob's in the house. Christian Fellowship Rob says, this is what the left does to everyone to take them out. They bankrupted General Michael Flynn. You're right about that, and I should have mentioned that. Right? This is not a new thing. This has been going on for a long time, but now they have massive justification in the form of criminal charges. They all say, oh, he's been prosecuted 4 times. And that's justification to do this. They did the same thing with Flynn. They're doing the same thing with Bannon and Navarro and all the J6ers. Think about that. Gosh. The J6ers aren't even public figures at all, or these alternate electors and stuff. It's lawfare, and the process is the punishment. Red-blooded American in the house with a very generous welcome. Thank you, Red-blooded. We got Sean's coming in. Greta-licious is here. Keith's here. Ecoms, Dixie Dogs, Jake M, Don W, Tyrannus S, Adam M, and Eric L. All in the house, courtesy of Red-blooded American. So, members, we do member-only morning streams in the mornings, or, noon East Coast time. And we also do Saturday streams, and so we have some more fun stuff cooking, some interview previews, and some fun stuff we're working on. So come check us out. And if you're a member on YouTube, join us for our after party. Go to the community tab section and grab the Telegram link. We got Diamond Gun says, Evergrande filed for bankruptcy. P.S. Big Swain of the thing. And so we've got Diamond Gun who says Evergrande. That's in China, right? Yeah, China's also in a pretty precarious position, as is the United States. Chaplain Steve says, God help us all. I agree with that, Chaplain. I agree. God help us. We could always use that. God help us all. You know, regardless of what's happening out there, could always use a little extra God's help. Thanks, Chaplain. We're gonna make it through it, right? We're gonna make it through it. I know that one segment was a little depressing, but we'll be all right. Why does Wray have a Beavis nose? I don't know. Does he? What happened to Wray? Where'd he go? I don't even know that I'd be able to tell you what a Beavis nose is. Yeah, I see it. All right, you're right. I don't know, because he's an FBI agent, probably. Rob says James Woods exed. He says he's called Biden's son, but she's dismissed as an ex-stripper. Oh, yeah, that's a good comment. Yeah, Biden's son, whom he loves very much, but his baby mama is an ex-stripper. The headline should read, ex-crack addict dragged into court by mother of his child. Yeah, that's a good one. James Wood is funny. All right, we got, Rob says, how much of SBF's FTX went to Biden? That's in that article, Rob. That is in that article a lot. SBF's mom was actually working in that charitable little exploitation. So that all went on there. We got this one over on Rumble. Mary Briggs. Thank you, Mary. Says, thanks, Rob. Very simple, Mary. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate it. Thanks, Rob. And I appreciate you saying thanks. I think it's, it's such a nice thing to say. It's just so funny to say it, on a live stream like this. Thanks, Rob. I like it, Mary. Pinot Shay's helicopter tours says Biden's got caught. Who else was selling influence? I'm sure a lot of them. A lot of them. And the Bidens just, they've been in Washington for so long. They just have been doing it for so long. I think they got comfortable. And they probably didn't think that Joe Biden was ever going to be president, to be honest. They thought VP was probably the top. And they needed to grift while they could grift. And then all of a sudden, he wins the presidency, and now they're under some scrutiny. But they got to stick with him because he's the only guy who can take out Trump. We got Crazy Ladies over on Locals. What's up, Crazy Lady? Says, Rob, check out voterga.org Independence Party that's worked on election integrity for 20 years. They have 5 open court cases for 2020. The amount of evidence on their site is staggering. I will check that out. It's an independence, worked on election integrity. Are they partisan? Do they lean one way or the other? We'll look at it. We'll pull it up. Let's pull it up in the after party. Crash says, Rob, in keeping with my burgeoning love of admiration for that July 4th document, but when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Good comment there from Crash to Contrary. Man, it's just like the words are just infused with raw power. Incredible. Like power, right? It's weird how words do that. You can just feel it. You can feel it. All right. Trust says, Stacey Abrams is a much bigger fanny. That's a good point. But she never got elected. Thanks for a great stream, Rob. And the chat on Rumble is awesome. We do have an amazing Rumble chat. And we got, who's in the house? We got Eric Scorpio's there, X-Gators in the house, Isle Paint, Hefty Joe, Dog Digger. We've got Jacob Castro's in the house. We got Assos over there, and Gaming Chad, and Sportfish, and others over on Rumble. Shout out to our friends on Rumble. All right, a couple more. We got Maria Kathleen. Hey, Maria. Thank you. Brought in another member. So Kathleen's a member, and Presidential Astronomer is now a member too, courtesy of Maria. Thank you very much, Maria. And welcome aboard, Presidential. We have another one from Maria sending in a dono. Thank you, Maria, for a nice dono and a member. And a GIF. And a GIF in the house. The Nintendo GIF. Which is, that looks like an SNES too, which is, one of the best platforms of all time. Katie, thank you, Katie. First super chat coming in from KT in the house. Thank you very much, Katie. I appreciate you and your support here today. We got Robert Winsman became a supporter. Amazing. So Robert, we'll see you in the after party. Grab the Telegram link or we'll see you tomorrow morning. Voice of the People says, of course, no offense taken. I'm just tired. I'm tired of being lied to and used as a bank account while they play games with our lives and laugh at us for it. I hear you, voice man. Hang in there. We've been going through, let's all just pause for a moment and recognize the last 4.5 months. They've been nuts, just to be clear. Like, we're going through a historic moment in time. However you want to cut it. We've never had a presidential candidate, former president, indicted in the history of all of our years in America. Never. We've got 4 of them in the last 4.5 months. So just to be clear, there's like a lot of stress and a lot of pressure and a lot of political angst out there. And I think that's normal. We're all going through it. We're all going to be frustrated, but this is not going to be a permanent thing. It's like, man, we've been going through something. So it is okay for us to all pause and just say, why am I feeling so irritated and irritable and dejected a little bit? Like, it's natural, it's like, okay, well, it's because we've been going through a very difficult period of American history, but it's not going to be this way forever. And in my opinion, these people have really exposed themselves. And the analogy that we were using on our members only stream this morning was Terminator 2 and the T-1000. Remember when the T-1000 was like melting and he was freaking out and he was scrambling around, like changing, morphing, turning his knife, his hands and everything? That's kind of what is happening right now. Like, the old power structure is recognizing that they're losing actual capacity. I wouldn't say power yet, but capacity. And they're flailing. They're flailing around. And so they're acting out. They're doing insane things. And it is certainly troubling. We're all troubled, no doubt about it. But my point is, we also got to be kind to ourselves and just sort of pat ourselves on the back, treat ourselves to a nice ice cream cone or whatever you got to do, because I'm tired as you are, voice of the people, but we are on the side of freedom. We're on the side of justice. We're on the side of history. And these people are exposing themselves for all of us to see. So onward, we're going to continue to support each other here. We're going to continue to nurture each other and elevate our political well-being. In addition, because this is about a long-term game too. This is about stamina. Like, we can't be burnt out. If we become dejected, if we become defeated, we lose. So we've got to make sure that while we're staying engaged and active as citizens who are knowledgeable and plugged into the system, that we don't get deviated too far off the path, because then we will be defeated. And we got to stay energized and well as we're staying plugged in and engaged. And so you inspire me, voice of the people, and everybody here who joins us. And it's going to we got to get through this little wave. It's a problematic wave, but we'll get through it. We'll get through it. So hang in there, my friends. It's a troubling time, but it's not going to be this way forever, and we have to see it before we can do anything about it. Salty Sarge says the federal government gives tech companies billions of dollars for software and security updates. Zuck, Gates, Silicon Valley are reimbursed before they make their first donation. Yeah, and they get all sorts of the monopoly privileges that monopolies get. Like, remember how Amazon was not paying any federal taxes and stuff like that? It's once you get to the top, once you're at the top of the pie, they all pull the ladder up for themselves. And we're not, I think people are starting to see that a little bit more. So that's a good news. Jackie Carrion says, much love for you, Rob. I have lunch and dinner with you and your great community. I have much love for you all. You are the best, especially love our mornings. Thank you, Jackie. We're really grateful to have you here. And I am honored that you'll have dinner and lunch with us and all of us here, because we're having a lot of fun and the community is richer with you in it. So thanks for joining us and thanks for being here in the mornings. B-Man says supremacy clause in Washington and Florida. Yeah, so are you saying the supremacy clause? So I think maybe, B-Man, you're talking about the supremacy clause. So these are the federal cases. The Washington and the Florida cases are the federal cases. I think the supremacy clause might be more applicable in the state level cases, which is the Georgia case and the New York case. Now, Trump already tried to remove the New York case, was rejected. They said, you weren't president yet. It doesn't have anything to do with that yet, your office as president. But the Florida case, no. The Georgia case, that has been scheduled for a hearing. Mark Meadows filed a removal case based on the supremacy clause, and that has been scheduled for a hearing. So we'll see what that one looks like. KT says, how are we letting a known pedo to be in office? Well, I got to ask the Democrats who voted 81 million times for him. I don't know, why are they into that? Good question. I'm not sure. We got this one from Hall Orc Fighter. Welcome aboard to shout out member. Welcome aboard, Half Orc Fighter. We got Catherine K. also became a supporter. Man, we're going to have some new members here. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So tomorrow, our members only stream is going to be lit. Crash to Contrary says, Rob, in your opinion, when will this end? Clicking my heels has not worked yet. If you want the real answer, I think about 2043 is the real answer. 2043, when we have a generational kind of a shift. We're coming out of an era of the we, where it's all collectivist and communalism and all this garbage, where everybody has to do everything. Everybody has to put a mask on. Everybody's got to get the jab. Everybody, all centralized. And I think over this next generation, probably 20 years or so, we're going to see a big swing towards individuality. And once we get there, we'll start to see. Now, it doesn't mean that, the world's going to be miserable for 20 years at all. What I am saying is that that's when I think the momentum of the ship will start to change. It's about a 20-year process. But that doesn't mean that we're involved in like a degrading, downfalling society. You can moor yourself to the collapsing entities or not. You can focus on sovereign individuality now and insulate yourself and start living that life ahead of the curve, which is what my plan is. So anyways, yeah. So, and by the way, everybody's going to be, around for that. We're all going to be here for that. We're medicine's getting better. We're all going to live to 120. All right. So just hang in there. It's going to get better. We're all going to enjoy it. Java Ally says we need Trump-funded DAs to counter Soros. Yes, that's true. They should be running for office. Yes, they should. Maybe they will. Maybe that Colton fella will run and get elected. Sign Deb became a supporter. Welcome aboard, Sign Deb. So don't forget to grab that Telegram link. And join us. We got Rob says, did anyone experience Rumble and True Social went down again at the same time today, 11:45 a.m.? I did not see that, Rob. I have not experienced that today, but I don't know that I would have been able to tell. Big Tech prepping to wipe us out again. Well, I think Truth, it's probably just a tech glitch. I think True Social actually contracts with Rumble to do their server. So if Rumble goes down, Truth will probably go down. Rumble is building a backend that they're providing infrastructure almost like Amazon Web Services was, which is good. We need that. Isaac Bowl says, Elvis Chan escaped with his BFF. Named that person's name. We've got Beth Coddington says, hey, Sweetums and all Rob's fanboys and girls. Do we have any of those? I don't think so. You're being very generous, Beth. Says, been listening but couldn't chat. Great stuff as usual. Love you, Sweetums. In a non-Saint Lakery way? I don't know what... is that a word? Beth, I think you're saying in a probably like creepy way? Stalkery way. Stalkery way. Thank you, stalkery. All right. Of course, Beth. Of course not. No, it's just total, what's the word? Platonic love. We can have platonic love here. That's perfectly acceptable, Beth. And we've been in a relationship for quite some time here. And so thank you, Beth. Love you back. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Thanks for listening and thanks for jumping in the chat and being so generous as per usual. Right back at you, Sweetums. All right. Thank you, Beth. We got Maria Kathleen says, any chance I can gift a membership to Po Boy with this tip, please? So I can't actually... I don't think I have the ability to gift a YouTube membership. But, so why don't either Maria or Kathleen, why don't you send me... How about this? Po Boy can join our Telegram. So Maria, if you know Po Boy, send him the Telegram link and have him join us on Telegram. Because I can't actually gift YouTube memberships. They don't allow me to do that, I don't think. I don't think I can pick somebody to give it to. It just goes to whomever's in the chat. But he can come in and join us on Telegram. Happy to do that. Justin Bentley joined us on Telegram. Here's one example. Oh, and the X, which is an interesting image there. CV's here, also joining in on locals on YouTube. And so we will go over to the X and see what's happening on Twitter and see what's happening over there. Anybody watching? We do. We've got some people watching on Twitter. We got 7 viewers. Yeah, baby. We're almost at 10, which means things are about to get wild. Danny says, Rob, the viewers on Twitter are not right. Go by the numbers of likes. Says Twitter is working on it. Thank you for that, Danny. I appreciate that. Yeah, they're working on a lot of stuff. We got Danny says, the Georgia Trump trial is a career ender. The judge should already be looking for a place to retire. V says, remember when it was common knowledge that all politicians are liars? Yeah. Has that changed? People not think that's the same anymore? John McGarvey is sharing this GIF with our new logo. So we got this new logo we're working on, and we got it on a hat, and it's looking good. This is our little GIF here, watching the watchers. Thank you, John McGarvey. RobertGouveia.com, baby. Looking good. It's looking fresh. Thanks, John. Fred Pedamonte says, Rob, this is my solo acoustic guitar CD. I'm sending you a copy. Address? The address is on the website. Go to robertgouveia.com, scroll all the way to the bottom. You'll find it right there. Everyone in the chat is welcome to check it out. Let me know what you think. Music. Oh, that sounds great. The 10 Bells from Fred Pedamonte. Solo acoustic guitar. That sounds great, Fred. Thanks for sharing that with us. How cool. I can play a little guitar. I know like 6 chords. C, D, A, F, E, D, G, and then the power chords. I think that's all I know. We got Raven Madness. Thank you, Raven. And Charlene is in the house on Twitter. Says, Rob, great show. Thank you, forgot my name. We got Charlene says, great show. Mario says, check out the James O'Keefe on election fraud stuff. Yeah, I saw he had a new post on that. Kel Briggan. Yeah, I was very unhappy. This is a fun comment. Kel Briggan says, unfollowing. Here, YouTube, everywhere. No tidbits of news are worth putting up with this level of childish, disgusting verbal abuse. Oh, I don't care who you're talking about. Act like a grown-up. Well, that's a fun comment. A very pleasant evening to you there, Kel2. Thanks for stopping by our show and leaving a comment. Yeah. All right, so that's what's going on over there. We had some other comments from some other people. Billy Jones says, it's worth noting that 12 of the 23 jurors needed to vote true bill. So no point in harassing them. You don't know how the individuals voted. I agree. I don't think they should be harassed either way, even if you know how they voted. Like, they're free to vote their way. I don't blame the grand jurors any way, shape, or form. I think that they're just there. They're being presented evidence by Fani. They don't get to see the defense. They don't get to do the other side. Like, they're just citizens who got dragged into the middle of this thing. Brian says, do you remember Marie Yovanovitch and her involvement in the Ukraine Biden cover-up? I think I remember the name. And Billy Jones says, I hope Biden has to claim all the tax dollars. Yeah, right. You think he'll declare that his tax as Biden should declare like that's a benefit, like he received a benefit in kind, an in-kind contribution for prosecution fees? Oh, that'd be funny. I don't think that's going to happen. All right, let's see who else we got in the house before we wrap it up and go on over to our after party. We got Operation Paperclip. Says, when did you discover you have a lawyer's brain looking at the world, and did you lose friends or gain friends? When did you discover you have a lawyer's brain looking at the world, and did you lose friends or gain friends? Well, I think every time I've had a transition, I've lost friends and gained friends. So like when I left construction and went to law school, I lost construction friends and that life, and I gained law school friends. And then when I left law school, I got, lawyer friends and left behind some law school friends and got new friends in my criminal defense. And I got criminal defense friends and lost other friends. And then I got entrepreneur friends. And then I had criminal practice friends and I lost some others. And now I've left the law practice. So now I've got more, I want to create more content creator friends and other, online creator friends and, build that space out. So I think it's always a transition, but I've become kind of okay with that. It's like, all right, if you want to elevate to the next level, sometimes you got to leave some other people behind, unfortunately. That's just the way it goes. And if you don't do that, those people might continue to drag you down. So it's constantly a shift. And I'm hopeful that I make new friends who are constantly challenging me and inspiring me in new ways. And it's part of the journey. We got this one from John McGarvey. Says Po Boy. Oh, Po Boy got a membo. Thank you. All right, so Po Boy is a membo. Thank you. So that's a shout out to Kathleen on that one. That's been done. Amazing. John McGarvey invited Po Boy in. We got Barb's Loves Alaska. Says, just saw on X that Hunter tax charges were dismissed by the federal judge. Can you read the doc and comment now? Well, it depends how long the document is. Let me take a quick look on it. I can pull it up relatively quickly. We'll probably save it for tomorrow, but let me just see if it's here. There was a filing. And where'd that go? Here it is. Okay, here's the order granting the motion to dismiss. Now, I don't think this is that big of a deal, okay? Like the government has said that they're going to refile it, so it's a very short order. Says the United States has represented that venue for the offenses does not lie in Delaware, right? The government voluntarily asked for this to be dismissed because they said we filed it in the wrong court. We only filed it in this court because we thought we had a plea deal. We don't have a plea deal, so now we have to file it in the actual court. Otherwise, Hunter Biden, if this case goes to trial, he will have a legitimate motion to dismiss based on venue. So the government doesn't want to give him that opportunity. So the government voluntarily dismissed. They say the government moved to voluntarily dismiss so that they could bring the matter in another venue. Hunter does not oppose this. Therefore, it's ordered. It is now dismissed. You see, this here without prejudice means that it can be refiled. If this was brought back with prejudice, it would not be able to be refiled. So now the government has promised us that they're going to refile this. I'm not so sure about it. We'll see what happens there. But that's the order. Thanks, Barb's. And yeah, just dropped. So a lot shorter than I thought. KT's in the house. KT's in the house. Thank you, KT. Welcome aboard. Cindy Banks says, are you practicing law at all? No, I'm not. Like, am I representing private clients? No, I'm not. Not right now. I thought about maybe at some point. I'm building this. We're sort of in startup mode here. We're building out the infrastructure for what we're doing here and into 2024. So I do still get referrals, but I refer them out. We got John McGarvey says you forgot to read the other names. Oh, this was a new. Oh, I thought this was just a repeat. Oh, I didn't realize this was new. Thanks, John. Okay, so Po Boy came in, courtesy of John McGarvey. We've got Knowledge Tracker, MJ, Woo Lad, Lexi's coming in here, Lil Loans, Laura W, Lamb of God, T-Mac, Roland R, all coming in. Thanks to John McGarvey, and got Po Boy in there. And sorry I missed that before. I thought you were referencing that Po Boy had already gotten in. Didn't realize it was a new invite. Thank you, John. We got this one from Red One. Says, will the voting system be the same as last time or, well, yeah, it depends on the states, but a lot of states have tried to, in 2020, they changed a bunch of the rules because of COVID, and now states have rolled back a lot of those. Like I think we covered a case here in Michigan, in Wisconsin, where Mark Elias is suing in Wisconsin because they unrolled the COVID changes and Mark wants to roll them back because there's already precedent for them. So I think there will be small changes. And I think there will be small changes, but it's mostly going to be the same. Maria says, I did law, then went to construction. I like my construction friends way more. Let me just say, so do I, by the way. Yeah, I like my construction friends way more anyways than my lawyer friends. Absolutely true. And I shout out to my lawyer friends. But yeah, my construction bros, I mean, they're building stuff, It's very, very cool. I miss construction. I will travel around here downtown Phoenix, and there's construction all over the place. And I always get caught looking. It's like, gosh, look at that thing. Look at that crane. That's so cool. All right, I just get, like a kid. All right, but good to see you, Maria. Thanks for the generosity today, my friends. Very much appreciated. I'm greatly appreciative of your support. It really does help. It keeps things on track, and we're rocking and rolling. We got some fun stuff cooking. So that is going to be it for us on the day. Now we are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. If you're a YouTube member who just joined us, you can join us by downloading the Telegram app if you don't already have it. Navigate to the community tab section. So go to YouTube, community, get the Telegram link, join us there. That's where we're going right now. Reports, newsletter, show notes, all that stuff's available. RobertGovea.com. You can get 15% off any orders at fieldofgreens.com using code Robert. The vegetables certainly want to be eaten. We want to say thank you to our mods and our meme smiths out there throughout the community, helping to mod down the fort for us and keep things nice and orderly. Big thank yous to the Antikiss Prime, our friend K Bean, Just Cause in the house, playing hooky. We got Ronnie Cole, our friend Zulu, Beyond Geostars, Zach Nichols is here, John Allen, Janek 909, Dog Digger, Donut Mind Me, and our meme smiths, Geegum Geegum, along with Sleepy Dog Lee and Nathan N810. And we want to wish a very special happy birthday to our friend Bonnie on the Locals. Big milestone, big 7-0 today, Bonnie. And Bonnie's been an awesome Locals member and supporter. We love Bonnie in the house. Wanted to wish her a very happy birthday. So happy birthday to Bonnie. And that, my friends, is it for us on the day. We are going over to our Locals after party. And so we hope to see you over there. But if not, we will be back here to do it all again, because there will be a lot of business to attend to. And we need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.